Hey everyone. Welcome to AfriHeart Stories, your go-to spot for African tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe and drop a comment. Now sit back and enjoy. The sun poured its golden warmth over the sprawling Apara estate in Enugu, casting a heavenly glow on the white tents, the blush-pink roses, and the hundreds of seated guests dressed in asoebi. The air buzzed with excitement as camera shutters clicked, children ran between chairs, and soft high-life music flowed from the live band. At the center of it all stood Nkem, radiant in a fitted ivory lace gown, her dark skin glowing like polished mahogany. Her veil shimmered beneath the sunlight. It was, by all appearances, the happiest day of her life. Except her mother's eyes wouldn't leave the groom. Nkem adjusted her bouquet and glanced across the yard where Philip, her soon-to-be husband, laughed with guests. Her heart fluttered watching him. He looked regal in his wine-colored igbata and velvet cap. But right beside him stood Mama Stella. As always, smiling. Dressed in a royal blue lace that almost matched the bride's elegance. Nkem's maid of honor, Ife, leaned close. Your mom looks like the groom's second wife. Nkem chuckled. She's just excited. You know Mama. Ife raised an eyebrow. She's been glued to his side all morning. Even when you were doing your makeup. I'm not worried, Nkem replied, brushing it off. Mama likes to be seen. It's just her way. But even as she smiled, her eyes narrowed slightly as she caught the way Philip leaned toward Mama Stella as she whispered something in his ear, and how he laughed, a little too freely, his hand lingering just a moment too long on her arm. Still, today was not a day for shadows. The ceremony was perfect. Bishop Okeke's voice rang powerfully through the microphone as he blessed their union. Vows were exchanged, rings slipped onto trembling fingers, and when Philip kissed Nkem, the crowd erupted in cheers and ululations. Mama Stella dabbed fake tears from her eyes, clutching a gold-trimmed handkerchief. The reception was even grander. The couple danced in, sprayed with Naira notes. Nkem moved like joy incarnate, laughing, twirling, letting the moment wrap her like silk. The guests shouted her name, praising her beauty. She felt like royalty. But through it all, Mama Stella danced beside Philip, mirroring his steps, touching his shoulder, whispering in his ear, tossing her head back in exaggerated laughter. Each time Nkem turned, there was that image again. Her mother and her husband, too close, too familiar. Chuka, Philip's childhood friend, finally leaned across the table during dinner and whispered, Your mother and Philip, they're close, huh? Nkem gave him a look. Don't start, Chuka. He raised his hands. Just saying. It's different. Nkem's father, Papa Ease, sat silently beside his wife, his eyes always darting to his plate. He had long learned to stay out of Stella's way. Later, as the couple stood cutting the cake, Stella stepped in to guide Philip's hand. Hold it firm, my son, she cooed, resting her hand on top of his. Nkem frowned. That was supposed to be her moment. After the crowd cheered and the cake was fed to each other, Nkem pulled her mother aside near the restrooms. Mama, she began, I feel like you're doing too much. Stella's smile never faded. My only daughter is getting married. Am I not supposed to celebrate? Yes, but the way you're always around Philip. Stella's eyes narrowed, but her tone stayed light. He's the son I never had. Besides, he needs a strong woman to guide him. I'm his wife now, Nkem said quietly. Stella gently brushed her daughter's cheek. Then act like it, sweetheart. Before Nkem could respond, Stella had walked off, swaying with purpose as she returned to Philip's side once again. That night, after the final dance, after the guests had departed and the mansion had gone quiet, Nkem stood by the window of the bridal suite, still in her gown. Her makeup was smudged, her feet aching. Philip walked in, fresh from a shower, towel around his waist. You okay? He asked. She turned to him. Did you enjoy today? It was perfect, he replied. You're perfect. He kissed her forehead, but something about the way he said it felt rehearsed. She tried to push it aside, blaming exhaustion. Later in bed, she woke to find him gone. The room was dark, save for the soft glow of the hallway bulb leaking beneath the door. She slipped on her robe and padded out silently. From the top of the stairs, she could hear him murmuring. No, I couldn't, not tonight. She's watching. Silence. Then he said softly, I miss your touch. You know I do. Nkem felt something cold crawl down her spine. She crept back to bed. When Philip returned minutes later, he kissed her shoulder and slid into the sheets as if nothing happened. She said nothing. Not yet. But in her chest, something quiet snapped. The next morning, sunlight filtered into the bridal suite like nothing had changed. Birds chirped, the mansion bustled with staff clearing decorations, and guests slowly departed. But inside Nkem, a quiet storm was brewing. She sat at the edge of the bed watching Philip tie his wrapper at the mirror. He was humming, a careless, tuneless hum that grated against her thoughts. "You were up last night?" she said, voice calm but probing. He paused. "Just went to get water." She didn't blink. "I heard you talking." He turned, surprised. "I got a call from Lagos General. They wanted to confirm my return date. Emergency case coming up." Nkem nodded, but her face betrayed nothing. That wasn't what she heard. He kissed her cheek. "You overthink, my love?" She smiled thinly. "Maybe." As he stepped out of the room, her phone vibrated. A single message from an unknown number. "You're not the only woman he calls, my love." She stared at it. Her hand trembled as she deleted it. The following days felt hollow. Their honeymoon in Abuja was quiet, beautiful hotels, candlelit dinners, shopping, but Philip remained distracted. His phone was always face down. His smiles didn't reach his eyes. He barely touched her at night. One evening while he showered, Nkem picked up his phone. Locked. Same as always. She tried his birthday. Denied. Her birthday. Denied. Their wedding date. Still wrong. When Philip returned, droplets still clinging to his chest, she placed the phone back down. "You're acting different," he said, drying his face. "Are you hiding something from me?" she asked. He stared at her for a moment, then chuckled. "Marriage has made you suspicious overnight." "No," she said. "You've made me suspicious." He didn't speak. Instead, he turned off the light and crawled into bed beside her. In the darkness, Nkem lay awake, wondering how love could begin to rot so quickly. They returned home after the honeymoon, and the Apara residence was finally quiet. But peace didn't last. 3 days after their return, Mama Stella arrived without notice, car horns blaring at the gate. A driver opened the door and she stepped out like royalty, clutching a crocodile handbag and a wide smile. "Nkem baby," she cooed, embracing her daughter tightly. "You look tired. Marriage is not easy, eh?" Philip emerged from the balcony. "Ah, Mama Stella." Her face lit up like the sun. "My handsome son-in-law. Come, let me greet you well." She wrapped her arms around him. He held her a second longer than necessary. Nkem stood frozen. "Mama, you didn't say you were coming." "I missed you people now. Can't I come and spoil you small?" "Spoil whom?" Nkem wondered. For 3 days Mama Stella stayed. She cooked Philip's favorite dishes, adjusted the curtains, made suggestions about the beddings, and even reorganized the wine cabinet. But what bothered Nkem most wasn't the intrusion. It was the way Philip followed her mother's opinions more than hers. She said the curtains were too bright, Nkem told him one night. "She has taste," Philip replied absently. "And I don't." He looked up, realizing his mistake too late. "I didn't mean it that way." But it was already said. One afternoon, Nkem found them in the kitchen. Philip was shirtless, frying plantain. Stella stood too close, leaning in, her blouse slightly open. Nkem paused in the doorway. Stella noticed and straightened her blouse. Philip turned, flustered. "We were just making lunch," Stella finished, smiling. Nkem said nothing. Just turned and walked out. She didn't touch her food that day. The whispers started from friends. "Nkem, is your mom staying with you now?" Ife asked over drinks. "No, just visiting. She seems really attached to Philip." Nkem laughed nervously. "Mama likes him. It's normal." But her laughter faded quickly. Later that week, during midweek prayer night, Philip flinched when Mama Stella's hand lingered on his shoulder during the final prayer. It was subtle, so subtle it could be mistaken for discomfort from kneeling too long. But Nkem saw it. She replayed it all night in her head. The next day, while doing laundry, she found one of Philip's dress shirts in her mother's suitcase. She picked it up, staring. Her mind raced. "Oh, what?" She walked to the kitchen and held it out. "Mama," she asked calmly, "why is Philip's shirt in your bag?" Stella looked at her, expression unreadable. "He spilled wine on it. I offered to wash it." "Didn't I just do laundry yesterday?" Stella shrugged. "You missed it." But Nkem knew. She never missed anything. Still she said nothing. Just folded the shirt neatly and walked away. The house smelled like pepper soup and betrayal. Nkem came home early from her shift, stomach rumbling. She walked into the house calling out, "Philip? Mama?" No response. She stepped into the kitchen and froze. Her mother was adjusting her blouse again. Philip stood a few steps away, wiping his mouth with a napkin. "What's going on?" Nkem asked. Stella turned with a dazzling smile. "We made lunch." Philip added, "We didn't expect you so soon." Kim stared at them. The table was set. Wine glasses, candles. Laughter had clearly happened before she walked in. "Just the two of you?" she asked. "Mama cooked your favorite soup," Philip replied. "We were just talking." Stella carried a tray to the dining table. "Come and eat. Sit beside him." Kim hesitated, then sat opposite them. She forced 2 spoonfuls down her throat. Halfway through, she stood up and dropped her spoon with a soft clatter. "I'm not hungry." Philip looked up. "Is everything okay?" She stared at him. Then at her mother. "Do you both think I'm blind?" Stella scoffed. "You're overreacting." "Am I?" "You're letting jealousy ruin your marriage." Kim turned and walked out. This time she didn't cry. She went straight to the bedroom, pulled out a small leather notebook and wrote, "Today I saw it with my eyes. I won't deny what I know anymore." The days that followed passed like mist, quiet, heavy, suffocating. Mama Stella had returned to her house, citing Church Women's Fellowship, but not before leaving behind a storm in her daughter's heart. One afternoon, Nkem was folding laundry when she noticed something odd. Philip's white dress shirt wasn't in their wardrobe. It wasn't among the dirty clothes either. Confused, she went to the guest room where her mother had stayed and opened the small laundry basket she'd left behind. There it was. Philip's shirt. Pressed, clean, and neatly folded with a lavender-scented dryer sheet tucked in. Nkem picked it up, fingers trembling. She marched to the sitting room where Philip sat watching football highlights. "Why was your shirt in Mama's basket?" she asked. Philip looked up slowly. "I don't know. Maybe she helped wash it." "You don't find that strange?" He shrugged. "She's your mother. She was just helping out." Nkem stepped closer. "Why do you always defend her?" "Because she's not doing anything wrong," he snapped. That was new. Philip rarely raised his voice. She stared at him for a long moment, then turned away. In her journal that night, she wrote, "Even poison can come in the form of perfume and praise." The final crack came during Sunday service. Nkem reached into her purse to retrieve her wedding bracelet, a gift Philip had custom-ordered with both their initials engraved. She wanted to show it to a church sister admiring their love story. But it was gone. She ransacked her handbag, her room, the car. Nothing. 2 weeks later, while attending a women's brunch hosted by her mother, Nkem walked in late. And froze. On Stella's wrist sparkled the exact bracelet. Same engraving. Same clasp. Same design. She waited for the gathering to end before confronting her in the kitchen. "Mama, where did you get that bracelet?" Stella turned smoothly, rinsing a wine glass. "This? Philip gave it to me." Nkem's chest tightened. "That was my wedding bracelet." "Then maybe he gave me one just like it." "You're lying." Stella dried her hands and smiled. "Some women don't know how to keep a man happy, so others have to step in." Nkem stared at her. "You're my mother." Stella leaned in. "And he's not your first mistake." That night, Nkem didn't sleep. She began reading between every line, replaying every glance and questioning every silence. The bracelet was only the beginning. A week later, her pearl earrings disappeared. Another gift from Philip, gone without explanation. She asked him directly, "Have you seen my earrings?" He shook his head, eyes blank. "No." But Stella was wearing them in a photo she posted online with the caption, "Glowing and growing." Nkem's breath caught in her throat. She zoomed in, there was no mistaking it. She had worn those earrings on her engagement day. When she showed Philip the post, he just sighed. "It's just earrings, Nkem. Do we need to fight over that? You gave them to me. Maybe you left them lying around and she thought they were hers. That's not an excuse. She's your mother. And she's disrespecting me in my own marriage." They didn't talk for the rest of the night. The next morning, Philip left for the hospital without saying goodbye. Nkem sat on the bed and wrote in her journal. "He doesn't lie with words. He lies with silence." It was Nkem's birthday. She didn't want a party, but Stella insisted on a small gathering. Friends, family, neighbors. Music played, wine flowed, and Stella, once again, held court like the queen she believed she was. Nkem sat beside Philip, quiet, watching. Halfway through the evening, Stella raised her glass for a toast. "To my beautiful daughter, who got lucky. Very lucky. Because if I had met Philip before she did," she giggled, "he would have been mine." The laughter was loud and awkward. But not from Nkem. Not from Philip either. His hand froze on the wine glass. His smile faltered. For a split second, their eyes met across the room, and panic danced in his. Everyone went back to laughing. But Nkem's world had tilted. Later that night, as the guests trickled out, she cornered her husband in the hallway. "Why didn't you laugh?" He blinked. "What?" "At the joke. Mama said she'd have married you if she met you first. You didn't laugh." He looked away. "You used to laugh at everything," she whispered. He walked away without answering. She sat in the hallway and cried for the first time in weeks. The next day, Nkem went to the pharmacy to pick up supplies and bumped into Chuka. He smiled wide but quickly noticed her mood. "You look off. Are you okay?" She hesitated. Then she broke. In the car, she poured everything out. Her suspicions, the bracelet, the shirt, the earrings, the words, the silences. Chuka gripped the steering wheel, expression tight. Then he said something that made her breath stop. "Nkem, I didn't know how to say this. But once, I saw them. Together." She turned slowly. "What do you mean?" He swallowed. "About 3 months before your wedding. I was at that new hotel near Lekki. Saw Philip. Then your mother walked out of the lobby. They didn't see me." "Are you sure?" He nodded. She kissed him. On the cheek. "But it wasn't a mother-in-law kiss." Kim shook her head. "No. No, you must have misunderstood. I didn't want to ruin your wedding. I thought maybe it was business. But now..." She looked out the window. Her world wasn't crumbling. It had already crumbled. She just hadn't seen the cracks. Kim couldn't sleep that night. She replayed Chuka's words over and over. In the morning she called him. "Help me." He arrived with a tiny black camera, motion-sensitive, voice-triggered. "You don't need to use this," he said. "But if you want the truth, here it is." She placed it inside the flower vase in the hallway facing the guest room. 2 days later, Mama Stella visited again, claiming she brought stew and ogbono soup. Philip was home early that day too. Nkem pretended to go to the market. She stayed at Ife's. At exactly 3:23 a.m., the camera recorded movement. First, the door to the guest room creaked open. Out stepped Mama Stella, hair loose, wearing a red robe. She walked to the kitchen. Minutes later, Philip appeared. Bare chest. No shame. They didn't kiss. But their bodies spoke enough. That morning, Nkem retrieved the footage. She watched it on her laptop in complete silence. Her hands trembled. Her chest rose and fell. No screaming. No crying. Only one sentence escaped her lips. "They did this to me." She closed the laptop. Then picked up her journal. The room was quiet. Too quiet. Nkem sat on the couch, the laptop screen frozen on the final frame. Philip standing in the kitchen, shirtless, smiling faintly, with Stella reaching for a wine glass. Her mother looked relaxed, as if she belonged there. Nkem's hands hovered over the trackpad. Her breathing was shallow. She pressed play again. Paused. Watched again. Each second carved into her soul. She felt a betrayal deeper than infidelity. This was blood. Her own mother. The woman who had raised her, braided her hair, kissed her bruises, now smiling with her husband in the middle of the night in a robe. Her robe. The realization burned hotter than rage. She didn't cry this time. Not because it didn't hurt, but because pain had numbed her. It was a silence deeper than grief. The next morning, Philip walked into the kitchen, humming, reaching for pap and akara. Nkem sat at the table with her laptop open, the video ready. "Morning, babe," he said. She didn't respond. He looked over, frowning. "Is something wrong?" Nkem turned the laptop toward him and hit play. Philip's face changed before the video even ended. He didn't speak. His mouth opened and closed like a drowning man. Nkem said nothing. "Let me explain," he finally whispered. "I don't want your explanation," she said. "I just want you to see what I know." When she stood to leave, he reached for her hand. She pulled away like he was fire. Philip sat on the bed, elbows on knees, face buried in his palms. Nkem stood by the door, already packed. "You don't have to go," he murmured. She gave a bitter laugh. "I should have gone the day you lied to me in the hallway." Philip looked up, eyes red. "It didn't mean anything." "Then why didn't you stop it?" He didn't answer. She pulled her suitcase. As she turned toward the door, she paused. "Does she mean that much to you?" He stood. "It's complicated." Nkem's chest tightened. "No. It's disgusting." Philip dropped to his knees. "I was confused. She came on to me. And you followed like a dog," she spat. He crawled forward. "Please don't leave. I'll cut her off. I'll fix everything." She bent down to face him. "You can't fix what's already rotted." And with that she walked out of the room. But not before sliding open the drawer and taking one thing with her, the signed business loan document. Philip didn't notice. Not yet. As she stepped into the taxi, the driver asked, "Ma, where to?" Nkem looked out the window. "To my freedom." Nkem checked into a short-let apartment on the outskirts of Enugu, clean, quiet, hidden. The air smelled of peace and eucalyptus. She unpacked only what she needed and laid the loan document on the table. Back when Philip started his private diagnostics lab, he had begged her to co-sign. "I trust you," he'd said. "You're my partner." Now that trust had become her leverage. The loan, Nigerian naira 20 million from a medical tech investor, was in both their names. But she had the power to withdraw the fund. He never updated the agreement after marriage. She booked an appointment with a lawyer the next day. Mr. Okafor was blunt and kind. "You have every legal right to reclaim your share, freeze the account, or even take him to court." Nkem nodded. "I don't want court. Not yet." "Then what do you want?" "I want silence." "Silence." "I want to disappear from their lives, and watch what happens when the foundation they built on betrayal collapses." The lawyer leaned back. "Karma never misses a target." That night, she wrote in her journal, "They broke me in secret. I will rebuild in silence." 3 weeks later, Philip arrived at the clinic to chaos. His assistant ran up. "Sir, the payment accounts are frozen. The investors are demanding explanations." Philip grabbed his phone and dialed frantically. No response. He raced to the bank. His name was no longer listed as sole signatory. Nkem had withdrawn her capital. He called Stella. "Mama, she's frozen the business. Everything is falling apart." Stella hissed. "You said she didn't know." "She does now." "Well, fix it." He sat on the pavement outside the bank, sweat dripping, his heart pounding. He had lied, cheated, disrespected his wife. And now she held the keys. Within 2 days, staff began to quit. Equipment suppliers pulled out. Debt notices flooded his inbox. He received a letter. Nkem had formally dissolved their financial partnership. Philip's account dipped below 10,000 Nigerian nairas. Then came the call he dreaded. "Mr. Apara, this is EFCC. You are being summoned for loan mismanagement and breach of investor trust." By Friday he was in cuffs. Mama Stella arrived too late at the station, her eyes wide with disbelief. "You let this happen?" Philip's voice was flat. "She let this happen." Stella returned to the mansion with a heavy heart. Her heels clicked against the cold marble floor, echoing through the once lively corridors. Empty. The staff were gone. The pantry was cleared. Even the chandelier bulbs were dimmed. She walked into the bedroom, Nkem's old room. Gone. Closet empty. The photo frame on the dresser now held a torn wedding picture, Philip's face scratched out. Stella picked it up slowly, her eyes glassy. She moved into her own room and opened her jewelry box. Gone. She rushed to the safe, emptied. Panicking, she called Philip. "This witch. She took everything." Philip groaned. "You think she didn't plan this? What do we do now? I'm facing arrest. You should be worried about your own eviction." Stella froze. "What? The house is in her name." Stella laughed. "No, it was my dowry gift." "No, Mama. She changed it months ago. You never even noticed." Click. The line cut. The next morning, a white eviction notice was pasted on the gate. Stella sat on the steps of the compound, hugging herself. A neighbor walked by and shook her head. "She's finished." It started slowly, like smoke before fire. A whisper here. A glance there. By the end of the week, the whispers had turned into pointed stares and half-muttered prayers. She slept with her own daughter's husband. Witchcraft. That's not ordinary. I always knew that woman was too bold. Stella stepped into her usual hair salon and immediately noticed the change. Normally, her presence would be met with greetings, compliments, maybe even a small glass of Chapman. But that day everything stopped. The blow-dryer went silent. The women seated exchanged looks. No one offered her a seat. Finally, the manager approached with a forced smile. "Madam Stella, we're, fully booked today." Stella frowned. "Then why are there empty chairs?" "Special appointments. Come back next week." She stared at the girl. Then turned and walked out, face burning. At the market, the vegetable seller she'd known for 5 years turned her back. At church, the usher mistakenly forgot to reserve her seat. Old friends stopped returning calls. Even her sister, Auntie Bose, sent a vague message, "Please, let's give each other space." Too much scandal. One evening, she stepped outside to pick her delivery and overheard neighbors whispering through the fence. "That's the one. Slept with her daughter's husband." She deserves everything she's getting. Her heart pounded. Hands trembling, she slammed the gate shut and fled inside. She tried to call Philip. No answer. Her once perfect world, her social standing, her pride, her admiration, was slipping through her fingers like dust. Philip sat on a rickety bench outside the small apartment he now shared with a friend. The space was cramped, no air conditioning, power outages every night. From the sound of it, his friend's children were fighting inside again. He rubbed his temples. His phone buzzed. Spam. Again. He was deep in debt, blacklisted from 2 hospitals, and now had a court hearing pending. His once revered name in the medical community was now mud. He scrolled mindlessly through social media, pausing when a familiar face appeared on a billboard photo someone had posted from Acadia. He zoomed in. Flawless in a cream suit, arms folded confidently, standing beside a placard that read, Senior Consultant, Lagos Medical Group. His breath caught. She looked powerful, unbothered, elevated. The girl he had underestimated had become everything he was not. He searched her name. Articles popped up. From nurse to national advisor, Nkem Apara joins Presidential Health Task Force. He clicked. There she was, standing beside ministers, smiling with grace. She wasn't flaunting wealth. She wasn't being loud. But her silence was thundering through his chest. He leaned back, and for the first time wept, not from guilt but from the loss of something irreplaceable. Not money, not reputation, but a woman he once called my love. Stella's hands trembled as she sliced open the brown envelope left by the security guard at her sister's compound. She hadn't received a letter in years, certainly not one with no sender name. Inside was a single glossy photograph and a folded note. She pulled out the photo first. It was Nkem, standing in front of a modern house with a new man, a tall, dignified-looking man with a strong jawline and gentle eyes. He had his arm around her, protectively. Her daughter looked happy, genuinely happy, radiant. Stella swallowed hard. Her fingers unfolded the note. Nkem's handwriting was still the same, graceful but firm. Dear Mother, I once wanted to be just like you. Then I learned that not all lessons are meant to be followed. Some are meant to be escaped. You taught me that love could be selfish, that blood isn't always sacred. But you also taught me how to fight in silence, how to walk away when begging would have been easier. This new life? I earned it with the pain you handed me. I forgive you, but I will never return. I found peace. Nkem. Stella couldn't move. Her chest tightened, her hands trembling violently as tears spilled without restraint. The room spun. She dropped the letter. A wail left her lips, raw and hollow. I just wanted to be loved. But the price of her longing had been her only child. And now, she was truly alone. The restaurant was quiet, intimate, classy, with soft jazz playing in the background and waiters who moved like whispers. Nkem sat alone at a table for 2, dressed in a simple emerald green dress. She didn't wear jewelry, only a wristwatch and confidence. The manager approached. Ma'am, your guest just arrived. She nodded once. Show him in. Philip walked in seconds later, unrecognizable from the man who once danced at their wedding. His once polished gait now sagged under the weight of regret. His eyes were tired, clothes wrinkled, beard overgrown. Nkem, he breathed. She gestured calmly to the seat across from her. You asked for 15 minutes. You have exactly that. He sat down slowly, placing a small folder on the table. I don't want to waste time, he said. I didn't ask to meet so I could beg. I just needed to say something. She said nothing. He looked down at the menu but didn't read it. I've lost everything. I know. My license has been suspended. My name is a joke in the medical community. Friends are avoiding me. Even my own mother? He paused. Even Mama Stella is not okay. Did you expect anything else? She asked coldly. No, he admitted. But I also didn't expect you to rise like this. I saw the billboard in Acadia. You're brilliant. She gave a short, sharp breath. And I always was. You just chose not to see it. Philip's voice lowered. I do now. I just wish. Don't, she interrupted. Don't say you wish you could go back. He stared at her. Why not? Because the man you were then would make the same choice again. He flinched. Nkem leaned forward. Do you even know what you did to me, Philip? Not just the betrayal but the gaslighting, the emotional abuse, the silence. I begged God to reveal what I was too afraid to accept. And when he did, it came with a pain so sharp I thought I'd never breathe again. I didn't mean for it to happen with your mother. It was a mistake. A twisted situation. No, she snapped. Don't paint it like something that happened to you. You participated. You chose it. You covered it. And when I came to you in tears, you told me I was imagining things. I was scared, he whispered, of losing the only comfort I had left. Her eyes flashed. And that comfort was my mother? Philip looked down. I hated you, she said, for a long time. But now, I feel nothing. And that's the worst kind of goodbye. I don't want a goodbye, he said, his voice cracking. I want forgiveness. She studied him, then reached into her purse and pulled out a single folded page. She slid it across the table. He opened it. It was a letter, brief and brutal. I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. He looked up, eyes filled with tears. Kem stood. We're done, Philip. There's no door to open, no bridge to rebuild. I gave you love, loyalty, and trust. You gave me wounds that still ache in quiet places. He stood too. But I never stopped loving you. She gave a sad smile. You didn't love me, Philip. You loved what I gave you. My silence. My support. My sacrifice. You never loved me. They stood for a long moment. Then Kem turned. He reached out as if to hold her hand, but she had already walked past. As she stepped out into the sunlight, her new fiancée, Nosa, was waiting by the car. He opened the door, kissed her temple. Everything okay? She nodded. Philip watched from behind the glass as the woman he'd broken walked away stronger, freer, and completely unreachable. He sank back into the chair. Alone again. But this time with the weight of truth pressing into his soul. The old compound in Nsukka was quiet that evening, tucked deep in the village where stars scattered like whispers across the sky. Crickets sang their endless songs, the distant sound of a generator hummed faintly, and the breeze stirred faded curtains inside the small bungalow. On the veranda sat Stella, barefoot, wrapped in a tattered wrapper, her once perfect nails chipped and forgotten. She rocked slowly on a wooden chair her late father had once built, the creaking sound a dull comfort in a life gone eerily silent. Her eyes were vacant, fixed on nothing. A cup of lukewarm tea sat beside her, untouched. Her sister, Auntie Bose, had brought it hours ago. Inside, the TV flickered on a low volume, playing some local drama, but Stella hadn't heard a word. Her mind lived in a different timeline, playing back scenes that no longer asked for her permission. She heard her daughter's laughter from years ago, small, innocent, trusting. Nkem, come and help me fry the plantain. Mummy, I'm coming. Don't eat one before you're done, oh? But it smells too good. She had loved Nkem. Hadn't she? Yes. What? Before jealousy swallowed her whole. Before loneliness in her marriage made her eyes wander. Before the attention of her son-in-law gave her a thrill she hadn't felt in decades. She hadn't planned to take it that far. Not at first. But the flattery, the attention, the validation, it had tasted sweeter than anything she had known in years. And now she sat forgotten, disgraced, alone. Her phone had stopped ringing months ago. Church had suspended her membership quietly. Her friends no longer invited her for weddings, baby dedications, or even funerals. Her name had become a curse in polite conversation. Once the woman everyone envied. Now, they crossed the street when they saw her coming. And Kem? She had vanished from her life like morning dew. No calls. No visits. No notes, except that one letter that had sliced through her like a machete. You taught me how to fight in silence, but you also taught me what I never want to become. Stella blinked hard. A tear rolled down her cheek. Not from self-pity, but from the aching, impossible truth. She had lost her daughter. Forever. She could deal with the shame. She could deal with the empty bank account, the lost properties, the ruined name. But not this. Not the absence of Nkem's voice. Not the silence of a child she once cradled, breastfed, protected. The cost of her betrayal wasn't public humiliation. It was being erased from the one heart that once beat with hers. Auntie Bose appeared at the doorway, hands on her waist. You haven't eaten, she said. I'm not hungry, Stella mumbled. You haven't been hungry in days. Your bones are starting to show. Stella looked at her. What's the point? Life is still in your lungs, Stella. I don't want it. Bose sighed. Your daughter called yesterday. Stella's heart paused. She gripped the edge of her chair. Nkem? Yes. She asked if I was doing okay. Did she ask about me? Bose hesitated. No. Stella inhaled sharply, then exhaled with a tremble. I just wanted to be loved, she whispered. Bose knelt beside her. And in chasing that, you destroyed the person who loved you most. Silence stretched between them. I can't fix it, Stella finally said. No. But you can live with it. Repent for it. Own it. Stella looked down at her palms, once soft, now wrinkled and dry. She had traded her daughter's trust for the thrill of power. She had fed her ego with the heart of her child. And now, she had nothing. No mansion. No reputation. No family. No future. Only memory. Only regret. And a chair that rocked beneath her like a ghost of who she once was. Suddenly, a little girl's voice echoed from the neighbor's compound. Mummy, look at me. Stella stiffened. She couldn't see the child, but her imagination filled in the rest. She pictured a mother smiling, arms outstretched, calling her child close. And for a moment, just a second, she saw herself in Kem. Years ago. Before everything fell apart. The ache in her chest sharpened. She reached into her faded purse and pulled out Nkem's childhood photo. The one she had secretly laminated and kept, even when she was pretending to be strong. In it, a 7-year-old Nkem beamed in her school uniform, 2 missing front teeth and the world still ahead of her. Stella pressed the photo to her lips. I'm sorry, she whispered into the wind. The breeze rustled the trees. But Nkem's voice never answered. 1 year later. In Lagos, Nkem stood on a hospital rooftop, overlooking the city skyline. Beside her was Nosa, now her husband, holding their newborn daughter, Ada. The child cooed, her tiny hand gripping Nkem's finger. Nosa smiled. She looks like you. Nkem looked into her daughter's eyes. And she'll never know betrayal. Not from me. He kissed her temple. Nkem closed her eyes. Some wounds would never fully heal. But from their ashes she had built something new, stronger, fuller, rooted in truth. She didn't hate her mother anymore. She had simply let go. And in that freedom she had found everything. Liked it? Thumbs up, subscribe and join the AfriHeart fam. Your support fuels our stories. Until next time.